Hello, and welcome to a very special. I totally screwed this thing up. That one. No! Fuck. A very special dev Q&A that I'm going to have to apparently rewrite this thing on. Unmuting my guests if they can't unmute themselves. Uh, no, it's not summer spoilers. This one, oh, I know what happened.
Yeah, if
Spoil
you
the
want
summer
spoilers, you have to
spoilers.
wait an hour.
Yeah, I linked. I forgot to unlink one of the things. I tried to be clever and helpful to myself and get everything set up in multiple windows, but if you don't deliberately unlink copied things, it kills all of one when you mess one of them up. So, what can I say? I suck at my job.
Wait, don't you work for us?
Oh, yeah, this is not the right stream to say that, huh? It's been a while since we've done any kind of developer Q&A. I know that people will have questions related to everything that's happened since the last time either one of you was on, which was probably pre-lockdown. Although Star Chaser 43 is giving us a shout out. Thank you for an awesome game. That's a nice way to start. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
And
You don't get all the credit.
yeah. So, maybe we could start with why did you design Modron automation this way? Why? Because a lot of people, when they were asking for it, they're like, I just wanted to have more than one party at a time. And you're like, that's too easy. Why this? I mean, awesome, but massive feature.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, initially it was just the design was just to have multiple parties so that people could use all those champions that they're recruiting every week or every couple of weeks. And then we kind of looked at it and we're like, yeah, that's interesting, sure, but how can we set it to 11? How can we really go all out with this and give players not just something to use a couple of new champions in, but also something to like really get into as well, and have something new to do in the game that's not just move from the left side of the screen to the right side of the screen.
And how
Plus
long?
that we decided that mini game that everyone loves, and basically every other game where you have to have to unlock something, tune something to match, or what was the most recent one that was in?
Spider-Man PS4 did
Oh yeah,
something
that's the one I
similar.
was doing recently because I was with that particular party. Oh,
Spider-Man on PS4. I'm not done it. I'm only like maybe a quarter of the way through.
Oh, it's a great game.
yeah, I just finished it 2 weeks ago.
Oh,
Loved it.
yeah. Says the guy who hasn't had a child this year. I have time to play games.
Yes.
We do have a question. Somebody was asking if there are plans to make it so that familiars can have an option to assign any available familiar when loading a formation save, as opposed to this exact familiar.
So it's well, it was supposed to be that, and that is on the list somewhere. Unfortunately, I think that got set and then it got unset. So it should be that way. That's the intention. That certainly would work better than the specific ones, because otherwise, obviously, if you have a specific one set and you're using it on another party, then well, it's just not available. So yes.
Somebody's asking if there's any plans for save layouts, sort of like saving formations.
Yeah, we've seen that requested quite a bit. I would be surprised if we didn't do something for that. We were discussing if there was a way to do it a little bit easier than a whole sort of save automation system, but we'll see what we come up with.
Yeah, I mean, if we look over at our new bug and feedback tracking, that has actually moved its way quite near the top. Pipe formations need savable formations is what it's ticketed under, and it's got 14 upvotes right now.
Oh, you guys have implemented a new support feature. You want to talk a bit about that?
Oh, yeah, go for it, Dave.
Oh, sure. I was going to give it to you because it was your hard work. But just to allow us to get the ticket reports in, or I guess as a preface to that, as players probably are aware, we've been taking in the reports largely via the ticket system. But that has resulted in a very large number of tickets. Many of them, of course, are reporting reporting and/or suggesting the same idea and feature over and over again. So we decided this would make a lot more sense, was to have something where players could actually put in a suggestion, and then they'd have a public-facing view. They can actually see what other people have suggested, and they can upload other people's bug reports or suggestions. So if you want to check that out, if you go to open a ticket the way you normally would in game by clicking the support link, there'll be a pretty front and center button on the open a new ticket page that you can then follow over and take a look at what's been reported in terms of feature requests and bug reports.
Cool. Another one is like, let's see. I wonder if this is all from the same small group of players. We noticed as we kept tooling around with the Modron core that going over 4 flow rewards you with an extra boost in those particular nodes. Is that an intended feature that is staying? It sounds very interesting.
Yeah, right now there's some sort of bug. We haven't been able to replicate it internally that can cause some of the outputs to be higher than they are supposed to be. And that is, in fact, a bug. But with that said, we do intend to add a feature to give players a big boost, or not a big boost, but a boost if they can really supercharge their outputs. So it's something we plan to do, but the one that's happening right now is actually a bug.
Okay. This next question isn't Modron related. Why is Narak?
Why indeed? Isn't the kind of Narak his? I think Narak is Dylan's fault.
My fault? How is Narak my fault?
Well, Narak himself isn't your fault, but the way that he is with the with that ability that kind of makes him a decent support in some cases, that one I'm going to place on Dylan.
You know, if you gave him an item, he would be a great support.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a weekend where we horrifically overbuffed that ability, and it didn't break the game. At least it wasn't it wasn't that broke the game that weekend, I don't think.
Yeah, I could see him being shifted more towards that support role in the next balance update that he gets, but who knows when that'll be.
Gleaser's asking if there's a way to see which and how high Modron buffs are.
Yeah, one of the things we want to do, it's actually on our previous bug list that we had for our beta testers. One of the things we definitely want to do is have a just a buff icon that shows up in the main game that you can hover over, and it'll show you all of your outputs in one place, rather than having to sort of look at it and guess at which ones are which.
Yeah, I know that was on the original design doc. I guess it just didn't make it into the.
It's on the list here.
Somebody's asking me now. Which item would you like him to have? Just an item that buffs Githzerai focus. That's it. At a very slow rate, so that it doesn't destroy the game somehow. Because I feel like it's probably a very dangerous ability to leave unchecked for a long period of time. Yeah, because it's good sometimes. I think something that I don't know if they're going to ask it, but I would like to ask just to clarify to players is how long have you guys been working on Modron automation?
Well, I mean, that's the actual the underpinnings for being able to have multiple parties was started, I want to say just before Christmas. That's when it was started. Or no, just after. Yeah, it would have been just after Christmas. It would have been early January when we started working on, I guess that was when I asked Mark, how hard do you think it would be to make it so that all of the main game systems were copied off into their own individual system, and we could run 2 or more at once. And I think at the time, I was like, it wouldn't be too bad, maybe a couple of weeks. Yeah, it didn't take a couple of weeks. So
yeah, he made the fatal flaw there of saying, yeah, I think I could do that. And then we're like, okay, do it.
The actual UI pieces on top of that didn't really begin in earnest until probably around March, I think. Because it actually took it to that point before we had anything we could put the UI pieces over top of, because the actual system didn't work yet. So yeah, it's probably had about 3.5 full-time people working on it since March, and one before that, one starting in January. Yeah. So it's taken a long time.
And how does that compare to some of the other features and systems that have been brought to the game?
It's got to be the largest feature. It's got to be the longest time it's taken us to put together a feature, and it's probably got to be the most complicated sort of after the fact change that we've ever made to a large scale system. Yeah.
Let's see. Somebody is asking if you'll add abilities to offline parties that are similar to Modron automation, like the ability to set up using speed champions or speed potions with offline parties.
So offline parties do use speed potions. The actual speed champion abilities, each and every one of those will have to be taken a look at individually to make work. So we'll be looking into what we can actually make work with that. But for now, you can use any of your potions that you can use in a live party. You can use in the offline party, and this is a change from the original offline mode, which didn't use your potions.
One of the players is asking if it's going to be possible that players can see the list of the checklist of features that you guys are hoping to add to Modron automation.
I mean, the new public-facing bug list that Dave mentioned earlier that you can get to from the ticket page, that's probably going to be the closest thing. We're going to try and keep that updated with kind of assigned tasks, and when they get fixed, when things get implemented or fixed, it'll show up on there as well. There's already some stuff in there that's fixed in whatever the next build we do, 339. So that'll be the place to look for Modron automation stuff specifically. And we'll probably expand this out to more general bug reports and whatnot once we kind of get Modron automation and multi-party play under control.
Yeah, one thing to comment on that though is that is for feedback and for bug reports. Sort of another part of that question was sort of would we be sharing things that we're thinking of doing, and the answer on that one is, as it sort of kind of always is that we don't share things until we're pretty confident that we're going to actually be doing them, because otherwise it turns into a case of, hey, you said you were going to do this and you never did it. And that's it's better to at least have some. Best word for it is, but have it underway to some degree, some high degree of confidence that that's something that we're going to be doing before we share it with people. So,
actually, it's interesting you say that, because that actually nails down the date that we started working on Modron automation and multi-party stuff, because the end of year dev blog had this stuff in it. So we must have run it past the developer before then to make sure we could actually do it. So it must have been just before Christmas that we started talking about it.
I remember when that dev blog came out. Yeah, it was, and I don't think people were expecting to see offline progress the next month.
Yeah, I kind of feel like we're getting pretty good on that list. I got to go check it out and see if we've done everything yet.
What's on
what's on our to-do list there?
Yeah.
I think we've done it all.
I got a couple of questions related to this. One player asking whether or not it'll be possible to have two simultaneous parties, and another one asking how many total Modron automation instances are you anticipating allowing in the long run?
I think for the second part of that, I think in the long run, it'll probably be 4 or 5 maybe. We'll see how stable the game is at that point, and if we want to go any further. I know there was some apprehension when I was like, what if we did 10? And everyone was like, what if we didn't? And then the first part of that was like essentially 2 parties running at the same time, sort of live. And I can't really see us doing that. I know the reason we did it the way we did is because that wouldn't work on many platforms for many reasons, for memory and for
performance
and all sorts of reasons. Yeah.
Some of the platforms struggle to maintain 30 frames per second in general. Having 2 up, well.
Can you give?
I hope you like a slideshow.
Can you give players an idea of what kind of restrictions you have to operate under across different platforms, without necessarily getting into specifics?
I mean, some platforms are fairly CPU bound. That, like, we found that the Switch actually falls into that category. And then other platforms are more memory bound, and that'd be especially the iOS tablets. Apple didn't fill them to the brim with RAM, and so pretty memory limited there. So unfortunately, in both of those cases, we have to make trade-offs. And when testing the Mojo automation stuff on the iOS systems, we did find that unless they were completely running in the background, they would very quickly run out of memory.
And for anybody wondering what that noise is in the background, there is a paper shredder outside the office right now that kicked in right as we started, or just shortly after we started. It's good to be back.
Luckily, there's no noise coming from my place. My baby is off on a walk and will not be crying unless she happens to get home before 3. In which case, there might be some baby squawking for everyone.
Baby squawking is great. Love it. I'm so used to it at this point. Have you reached the point yet where it's weird when you don't hear it?
We're new parents, so we go through that phase where it's like when the baby's making noise, we're like, oh, I want the baby to be quiet. And then when the baby's being quiet, we're like, oh my God, is she still breathing? So,
yeah.
No, not quite there yet.
Yeah. Yeah. They instill a lot of fear into you going through the system. They're like,
yeah.
You got to worry about these things. You're like, oh God, really? This is way more complicated than a hamster. Yeah.
They give you pages and pages of stuff about, hey, if they don't do this for an hour, then call the doctor. If they do this for too long, call the doctor. And then like inevitably they do that stuff and you call the doctor and they're like, yeah, call us back in a day if they keep doing it. Like, who cares?
Yeah. We just to stay on that tangent briefly, we ended up with a doula who's probably got like 40 or 50 years experience. Like she is winding down her career and only taking a couple clients at a time. And so we just call her and she's like, just like totally unfazed about everything. I'm like, oh, that's nice. Thank you for calming us down.
Yeah, I found that very useful as well.
Yeah. Alrighty. Questions about Nova. Can you give insight as to why Nova's base attack is single attack and not AoE? And additionally, why doesn't Nova's ult give a 100% drop rate of hearts when it kills enemies? And also, can you give any hints as to Nova's Arrowist synergy? I think we left the Arrowist synergy to Kim to talk about on her stream, and I actually forgot to ask her whether or not she did, because we gave it to her.
Okay, well, we won't mention that then. We'll give that an opportunity for her to do. For her main attack not hitting all enemies, oftentimes when we're doing a non-DPS champion, we just kind of flip a coin as to what kind of things their attacks are going to do and how their attacks can be set up, because once you sort of get far enough into the game, their attacks aren't going to be killing anyone anyway. So, I mean, Nova's kind of a bit of a special case because she gives a bonus when she kills stuff. So I think we just wanted to avoid her being able to farm too much too quickly. I think that's why we did that. It's been a little while since we've designed Nova. Since we released on Switch, we've been quite a bit further ahead on our champion design. So forgive me if I'm forgetting something, because Nova was probably something we worked on like 5 or 6 months ago. What was the second question? It was about
5 or 6 months ago, because I remember being in the office for one of the calls with Kim to talk about how to design Nova, and I'm like, I haven't been in the office full time in quite a while, so yeah.
Right. It was about her ultimate, not
about the ultimate, not always rewarding.
Yeah, I'm
not
actually sure about that. I'd have to. Let me just pull up the design sheet for her, see if I can glean anything from it. Nova.
Just hear the subtle whistle of the shredder in the background.
Oh, it's just fascinating, Justin.
I'm not sure. Honestly, it looks to me like her ultimate probably should. Anything she kills from it, it probably should. Oh no! Actually, I remember this. Yes, it was just her main attack that we set up to always drop a monster heart. So it was specifically her main attack, her normal attack to sect, that causes her to always drop hearts. So her ultimate attack doesn't always drop hearts because it's not her normal attack. That's her normal attack that has that special ability. So kind of a roundabout way of saying it's just because that's how it was designed.
It's probably too early to ask this, but what's next? How do you top Modron automation?
I'll take a vacation as soon as they open the borders again, right?
was a vacation.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I mean, I was looking at the dev blog for the end of year, and Mojo Animation, multi-party play were actually the last kind of two things from it. So we did offline progress early in the year. We did the time gate rework. We've got year 4 events starting very soon. Multi adventure mode, or multi-party mode as we call it now, and motor animation. So we're done. We're just taking the rest of the year off.
Oh.
I mean, unless Chris spoils something in the next segment, right? Sort of-
Yeah. I figured I'd just say like, all right, Chris, here's your microphone. What do you want to talk about?
That's why we don't tell him anything anymore.
Yeah. Okay. One player who plays on mobile is asking how a mobile user is able to view pipe flow data and node benefits, since the touchscreen controls are overloaded.
I think at the moment it can't. I think the you're unable to do tooltips right now. It'll have to be adjusted so that you tap on them.
Yeah, that'd be a great thing to
slipped through the
add.
cracks.
That'd be a great thing to add to the public bug tracking, because then we can let you know when it gets fixed.
All right, I'm just filtering through some of the questions we've actually already got to. New player here. What is Modron automation?
I think you can answer that one, Dylan.
Yeah, why don't you take a stab at that?
Modron automation is a brand new feature that came out on Steam and WebGL a couple weeks ago, and is now becoming available more widely. And it allows you to run multiple parties and set up a Modron core to automate what a party that you are not operating does, and now with bonuses and ways to set it up to get resets and other stuff. And I feel like there's probably a bazillion other things I should go over, but luckily, Garawar will be streaming later today, and he will be talking about it at length. But yeah, it allows you to run multiple groups at the same time, which you'll kind of want to do when you have enough champions to do that. I have my second party set as a group of champions that I rarely use, so that they can farm gems for me in the background. They're at 70 resets since I last checked it. Yeah. Anyways, alrighty, let's see. Garwar's like, oh, I guess I know what I'm doing on stream today. You don't have to do that, Garwar. You already did a really in-depth Modron automation stream last week, which is available on our YouTube channel and in the VODs. And also Mars did one earlier today. So there's plenty of more detailed Modron automation stuff out there for folks who are interested. Especially probably those folks on Nintendo Switch who won't have it until next week, I think. Is that something like that?
A little bit further than that. It might be a few weeks away.
Yeah.
Can't really give a specific date.
So speaking of Garawar, there's a question from Garawar in here that I just arrived at. Now that you've added multiple major features to the game, any chances of a larger quality of life push for the second half of this year?
Yeah, I mean, Dave can probably speak to this better as the lead technical developer, but certainly I would like to see us take a step back and just really focus on the fiddly things that are kind of broken or not working as well as we'd like.
Yeah, I mean, we've got a list that's as long as my arm of things we'd like to get tidied up, fixed. And unfortunately, sort of over the last few months, especially with everyone working from home, we've found that we actually have fallen a little bit behind on that, more so than we really like. So that is going to be the priority going forward, especially now that with the Modron stuff mostly finished, and there'll be a little bit more. I mean, we'll probably spend the next month polishing that up at the bare minimum. But there will be more developer cycles that can focus on issues. And so that's definitely going to be a priority.
I know there's a lot of clamoring for a year 2 or year 3 champion rebalance as well. Although the year 3 champions seem pretty good.
Yeah, I think we're getting better at that as we go, making sure they're good out of the gate.
Alrighty. That is a question that we've addressed many times. I'm not going to ask that one. A player asking about working on the memory leak. Now that this is done-ish, any chance you'll be working on the memory leak?
Yeah, Dave, how's the memory leak coming?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly gets the idea that it's a little more simple than it actually is. As far as the memory as far as memory leak issues go, every few months we actually do a memory pass. The last one actually was Peter and I spent an entire week just before the Switch launch, or just after the Switch launch, going through attempting to sort of clean everything up and make sure that we were tracking absolutely everything so that we would have better performance actually on the Switch. But what we do find is that even if you go through and clear everything up, as we release new champions, as new features get added, as people find new ways, new combinations of using champions together, that things we missed crop up and or new things get added. So it's a constant battle on that front, and it's never just one thing. It's always a combination of little things that add up over a significant period of time, which of course, it's one of those things in the game where actually if you've got like, a dozen speed potions running, it adds up really quickly, or rather it's something that would have, in general testing, take a day to show its face. It shows up in like 3 to 4 hours or something like that. So, but yeah, it's just a constant battle to make sure that we're catching all the cases where these things can interact with each other. So it's due. It's definitely due for another pass. But the funny thing with that is that when we did the Switch pass a couple of months ago, we didn't actually find a whole lot. So it's a tough one.
A player named Izan is wondering if there's any chances on increasing the average gem drop rate per boss. And then they go on to talk about the cost of familiars and everything else that costs gems.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, we actually talked about doing some rebalancing of the gem drops from bosses when we were going to launch Modron animation, and we just didn't quite get around to it. But certainly something I still want to look at down the road. Being very aware of the fact that we've set these very high prices, but part of that is also the fact that it's much easier to just set your game and forget it and farm quite a few gems very quickly. So. Well, I think we'll eventually find a balance point there between the cost of gem things and the amount of gems you get. But certainly for like the other core, we don't want that to be something that you can just like farm up in a couple of weeks. That's like a really long-term goal for players. And I think other cores added in the future will likely be similar in terms of the length of effort or the amount of effort you have to go through to get them.
So there's a player asking about the balancing for Modron automation. They say for a lot of players it seems easy to max out all inputs on a core. Given that there are chests being sold and parts aren't in demand for most so early, are there plans to rework how much flow is needed for the buffs and whether there should be higher or more demanding flow points?
Yeah, so I touched earlier on this idea of supercharging outputs. And so that's probably that's where we're going to look in terms of giving players something to shoot for with their hundreds and hundreds of excess flow that they've got. But we're not. I mean, during the beta period for this, we had a number of users sort of get their cores like level 8 or 9 and get most of their outputs to purple, but generally the range, the amount of excess flow they had wasn't too high, so. Mm-hmm. I think the balance point on there is pretty decent right now, and new players will still find it, I think, challenging to get every single output to purple. Certainly getting 1 or 2 to purple is really easy, but certainly getting all of them to purple will still be a challenge given the sort of limited number of chests you can get per week. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think longer term we definitely want to have bigger goals for you to go for on those pipe outputs.
Okay. This kind of segues into the next question. Besides the 2 existing cores, are there thoughts of other core layouts with maybe different buffs or automation options?
Yeah, for sure. That was something we left open so that we could do some fun things. And we'll continue to brainstorm and see what kind of fun things we can come up with.
This is an interesting one. There's a follow-up to Nova. Maybe I'll do the Nova one first. Why does Nova not collect heart/brains while offline, like Zorbu's kill count?
Yeah, so the offline progress, it's not a perfect simulation. It doesn't necessarily take into account every single champion ability that there is. In fact, for some of those more specific ones, like Nova's drops, like even some of the speed up ones, like Shandy's speed up or Sentry's speed up, it just doesn't necessarily take those into account. So it's something we have to go in and add one at a time. We have to do special case code in the offline progress handler to actually make them work. So I don't know if you can touch more on that, Dave.
Yeah, it's certainly, I know Peter's been working quite a bit on sort of unifying how all that works, because a lot of the cases where, especially because the offline progress actually doesn't simulate areas like one at a time. It does these jump aheads where it checks if you can complete, every 5 areas or something like that. And then if you can't, then it rolls back and tries to figure out where you would have stopped. But otherwise, then it gives you credit for 5 areas at a time. This is significantly faster than, of course, trying to do every single area individually. The only problem with this is that as anything that requires a count per area then gets done 5 at a time, or whatever the chunk ends up being. And then things that are dropped or at times end up having to be multiplied. Like, how many do you get on one area? Okay, well, here's 5 areas worth approximately. Mm-hmm. And then other abilities do need like individual catch-ups. I know there were some issues with, for example, Briv being able to jump over boss areas or jump over areas that had effects on them. Mm-hmm. Like, if, for example, I think in the Split the Party adventure, there are specific areas where parts of your party get removed, and there was a bug for quite a while there where Briv could just jump over those areas, and then you didn't lose that portion of your party. And so all the cases like that end up having to have special case code that says, all right, catch up this area. When we run 5, what are the things that have to be accounted for? And so going forward, I know Peter has some structures that he wants to get as just sort of standard with each champion ability, so that they all have their own sort of catch-up mechanic that says, hey, I actually did 5 areas worth of something, so give me 5 areas worth of credit, or do 5 areas worth of actions, for example, like pulling people into your party. But until we get those in, there's certainly going to be cases that just aren't accounted for yet.
Okay. So Sodius says, I'm using Jaheira because she's so cool. But are there any better champions at her slot?
That's a great question for the community, not for us. It's like, what's our favorite child? I mean, I only have one child, so that's my favorite child. But, eventually. Yeah. What even slot did we put Jaheira in?
It's 4. With
4.
Halton, Sentry, Ishii, and Jarlaxle.
Ooh.
And Stokey.
Stokey certainly gets a lot of love.
AKA the pickle, yeah.
Yeah. And I use Sentry on my speed runs when it's a foreground party. So
somebody's asking when you're going to unlock multi-child mode.
That's a whole other question. We'll do a whole parent stream.
Right.
Don't bore people to death.
Bring all the staff who'd had kids this year on. Yeah. Alrighty, let's see. This is an interesting one from PowerCat13. Do you foresee unique nodes to future Modron cores? For example, a speed increase or increased quest drops, offline speed increase, etc.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think that kind of stuff could be pretty cool. I can't say specifically any of that stuff specifically, but if there's stuff that makes sense and it's fun, and I especially like stuff that gives you a little bit more control, a little bit more strategy over your choice of which core is on which party and what that party's doing. So I do like the idea of having like a core that's like, this is a great core for like gem farming because it's got a speed up and a +1 gem, output or something like that. So yeah, I could see cool things like that. Not that specifically though.
Blasphemer 2016 would like to know if there will be a more polished video outlining Modron automation / multi-party coming out with the official release. I feel weeding through C&E vids of the beta stuff is a mixed bag and hard to learn with.
Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty cool idea. I know we've talked about doing video tutorials for pieces and/or doing video spotlights for champions. We just haven't been able to get around to doing something like that. So I'd love to see us do something like that, but I think that's not likely the case of the Modron for this one.
Takes a lot of time, a lot of effort.
Yeah, I will stop by your desk on my way out, David, and I'll explain to you how I think we can do it.
Cool. Hey, you hear that? The shredding has stopped. I think Sean's done with the tickets.
Yeah. That's a terrible joke.
Someone in the chat said it. Okay, I'm just.
Oh man! All right. Okay. Mycroft Jones. Do you have to be at a certain point in order to unlock Modrons? I don't have the icon available, and they've validated their files on Steam.
Yeah, so you have to have, in order to just have the split the party, or not the split the party, the multi-party icon show up, you have to have at least 6 slots with 2 champions in each of them. And in order to actually do the split the party adventure, you have to have at least 2 champions in every single slot, every single bench slot.
And then they're going to get mercilessly taken from you. I'm just telling you now, Mycroft. I didn't really read what it did when I went to start it. I'm like, I'm just going to start this. And I threw my best party in, and then I tabbed out, went back. I'm like, where'd all my guys go?
There's definitely some strategy to it, for sure.
Yeah. That was one that I think last week, I think it was last week or the week before. One of the previous couple Fridays, Garwar did a stream specifically about Split the Party that was really good.
There's some good guides on the subreddit as well.
Alrighty. Let's see. There's a player asking about our console testing on console builds before release, because their PS4 and Xbox, there's no way to start the adventure to unlock the second party, now fixed in brackets, and now we can't enable the 3 automation settings.
I don't know about the first one.
No, that was true. I fixed that.
Oh, right away that was blocked.
Yeah, that was just the when we did the beta with some of our players, we locked it out. We locked out that split the party by platform because it was causing some other issues, and then we just didn't remove that restriction, and so but that's fixed.
And then the second piece, unfortunately, those disable toggle buttons that are at the top of the automation screen were a last minute addition that got added in as feedback during the beta phase, and those appear to have, from a console standpoint, slipped through the cracks in terms of having a button added to them. So I know Justin's quick rushed in a fix for that, or at least for the time being, and that is that those will just be forced into enabled if you reload your game on console right now. And then we'll have a patch for that fairly shortly.
I'm not sure I understand this question entirely. Can a magnifier be added when looking at components?
A magnifier?
Just too small on the screen?
Yeah, I think what they might be referring to is something... it's not always easy to see the little flow directions on them, especially when you get into the ones that are like this. Oh, I guess it's behind your head, but all the T-junction ones where you're like, I need one that goes down and then also up here, and then it's just like they get a little more confusing.
Yeah, I know people also requested being able to zoom out and see the whole thing at once. So being able to zoom in and out on that would be great. We'll have to take a look at what we can do in terms of being able to zoom in on those, just because the assets aren't that high resolution. So if you zoom in, they're going to get a little on the fuzzy side. But we can see if that needs to be addressed. And
they actually followed up a zoom so you can see the teeny tiny arrows and stuff like that.
Right. Yeah. Those are definitely
flow direction.
Hard to see. It's been something we've been aware of from the get-go when we first got them. But
just create an engine to render some 3D water that's flowing through all the pieces, and so when you pick one up, you just see the water going through it. Easy, right?
Yeah. No,
won't use any memory.
Just upgrade the game to use Unreal Engine. I mean, it's not that hard, right? Come on, Dave, get on that.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of weeks, right?
They were asking what the next feature is. There it is. We're upgrading the game to Unreal Engine 5.
Yeah. I mean, the little pipes do have little bubbles flowing through them,
when they're placed in the formation, or on the screen in the formation.
In the Modron formation.
Yeah, in the Modron formation.
We're all about formation.
The automation formation.
Well, the players did refer to them as the pipe formation. So,
pipe formation. Yeah. Is there any benefit to having any champions in the offline party, assuming familiars on click damage and field and an automated reset configured or within the click damage range? So they're wondering if they could do offline Modron automation with a championless formation.
For now,
you can. That's actually, again, similar to the sort of gem rebalancing. That's something we wanted to address before this went wide, but we just ran out of time. But we do want to try to make click damage not quite so powerful, because a championless formation is not something we intend for players to use with Modron animation. So your time is limited.
Okay, so with year one champions rotating out of events soon, will there be any other way besides time gates for newer players to acquire them for Modron automation?
Mainly time gates. That's the way we kind of intended. That's why one of the big things we did this year was the time gate rework, which made it a lot easier to target specific champions and to gear up specific champions. So that's the main way. As always, there are ways to get those champions in the shop for in other ways, and I think the patron shop has a couple of skins for some champions. I'm not sure if there's any year one champions in there, but when you buy a skin in the patron shop, it also unlocks the champion, which is not necessarily called out, but it's something that it does. So
yeah, it's still a bit of a challenge to gear them up in that point, but yeah.
Yeah, no, time gates are always going to be the kind of way to do that. And now that you've got a second party running, you can just set that party into the time gate and go, and not really have to worry about it.
Justin's going to like this one.
Uh-oh.
Could Ashara's specializations be reworked to be more similar to Morgaine's second and third choices, where you have a pool that you can keep picking from? So, having all the bond options, and then you just select a couple of times.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. But I kind of like the way that Ashara kind of makes you pick out of 3 each time, or 3 sets each time. So probably not. We probably won't change it to do that. But I do like the way that we did that on Morgaine. I really thought that worked out really well.
Mm-hmm. Alrighty. Is there a way to get the year 2 anniversary reward feat for Celeste?
You know what? I think as soon as Modron animation is live on Switch, I think at that point, all of the builds will be updated to support feats in wild offers, which is one of the places where you will be able to get that Celeste feat in a wild offer. So yes.
Justin, someone wants to know where your second blue pillow is. You got 3 on one side and 2 on the other.
Do they really? Because I can tell you where it is. It's in the other bedroom. This is our guest bedroom. And those blue pillows are generally supposed to be on the guest bed, but Lauren, who was recently pregnant, loves pillows, and being pregnant, they tend to love pillows even more. So I believe that is one of Lauren's numerous hug pillows.
Mm-hmm.
Aren't you happy you asked?
No, I understand. My wife has this like V-shaped breastfeeding pillow that's kind of like built for if you're sitting in a chair, you put it there and the baby can just sit on it. But it's also her favorite pillow for everything, everywhere, all the time. And it just travels around the house with her. Yeah.
Yeah, I have fetched Lauren's nursing pillow from the living room when she's in the bedroom, and from the bedroom when she's in the living room numerous times.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
It's one of those fun things.
Yeah, it's never going to stop. Major Higgins would like to know which champions are from C&E employee campaigns. For example, like not a Forgotten Realms character at some point. I don't know that are any of them.
I don't think any of them are.
I thought they were all created originally just for the game.
Yeah. As far as I know, I don't know. I mean, you came up with the design for Warden, so as far as I know, that could have been your homebrew that you were using at home.
No, made that up on the spot.
I'm
like, how can I make this as dark and emo as possible? And I just kept going. And it was perfect because Kat was the one doing the art, and
yeah, Warden turned out great.
Yeah, pretty evil, except for the skin where they're not.
I think it'd be pretty cool to run like a CNE, like a streamed CNE D&D game where we play some of the characters, some of the CNE originals, in one of the adventures that's up on D&D Beyond that we did, like the Great Modron March or the Cursed Farmer.
That could be fun, except that, like, since you wrote those adventures, you know what happens in them.
Well, that's true.
Do we have enough?
I can just play
characters though.
I can just play. Oh,
yeah,
sure we do. Yeah.
There's like 9, I think, at this point.
I'm trying to get one in every slot, but it's slow going because we don't do them very often anymore.
Yeah. Alrighty. Oh, this is interesting. With the new books that have come out from R.A. Salvatore, are there any thoughts on updating the companions of the Hall to match their rebirth characters?
There are not. Quite simply, nope. Generally, with a lot of the lore characters, and I'm sure we've said this before on the stream, but the lore characters, we kind of pick and choose from sort of the time that we think they're the most iconic or they've got like the coolest kind of stuff. So I think reworking some of like Dritz or Regis, who's got like a totally different character, or any of those guys to be their sort of post-Sundering characters, I think would be maybe a little confusing for people who haven't necessarily read those books, because I think they're more well-known in their pre-Sundering forms.
Mm-hmm. All right, we've only got a few more minutes. Let's see. Is there a different progression speed between active and inactive windows when using multiplay?
Between your inactive and active party, yeah, absolutely. So the inactive party of the background parties, they all use the offline progress system to progress, which I think it defaults to about 60 seconds per area, and there's not much aside from speed potions that affects that. Mm-hmm. So right now, yeah, there is definitely a difference there. Your background party will progress slower than your foreground party. But with that said, that's something that we do want to look at, and we do want to try to get those closer together. But it's just a very complicated system, so that may take a little bit of time before those are closer together.
Yeah, we'll certainly get them. We'll minimize the differences between them, but they're never going to be exactly the same.
Yeah.
Are we ever going to get a tanking champion that is not a melee champion?
Yeah, probably. Probably, I assume so. At some point, we'll look at all our stats and be like, The thing is, with those, like the champions that are kind of outside the meta, like tanking champions being melee champions is just like a very, very common thing in the meta. And so whenever we pull in like a lore character, or wherever we pull in like a player's, like a content creator's character, they're very often, they follow those kind of tropes. So whenever we pull in a tank character in that way, they're generally melee already. Mm-hmm. So in order to get those kind of, more fun ones that are like a tank champion who isn't melee, those generally have to happen in C&E original characters, and so we just don't see those as often, because there's just such a large number of lore and content creator characters that we'd like to get into the game.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Here's a question back to Modron automation. Are there plans for filtering on the pipes? Something like a custom pipe you can design and it shows all the pipes in your inventory which match up with the custom pipe would be nice.
Yeah, the filters for the pipe list is it's on the list. The pipe list. Yeah, we just ran out of time on that one.
Does Modron automation affect only that run, or does it affect all adventures? If I have 2 cores in my current adventure, which ones get the bonuses?
It's just the party attached to that Modron core gets the bonuses from it. That's it.
That's the answer. Yeah.
That's the whole answer.
Okay. How long until a third party is going to become available?
I think that'll kind of depend on how the bug fixing for these first 2 parties go. I think we probably won't release a third party and third core until we're really satisfied with how the system's working and if it's working really, really well.
Yeah, certainly adding a third party into the mix is just going to complicate things in a way that would slow down figuring out all of the current issues. So, baby steps.
Okay. Are there any vague or general hints you can give about what you're looking at for future goals or implementations in 2021 or 2022? which is a real year, not a made-up year. That will happen.
No, everyone's very excited to get there, I'm sure.
May 2020 be over, please.
No, I think we've been so heads down on Modron animation and multi-party play. Like Dave said, with sort of most of the development team for the last 3 or 4 months that we haven't really spent a lot of time talking about what comes next. So I'm sure we'll have a dev blog towards the end of the year that'll be like, here's all the fun stuff coming in 2021. But for now, we're just going to try and fix what we've got so far.
Cool. Alrighty. Are there any plans to add conditions to using cores, like the potions, or changing the team in advanced stage of stay? But okay, I need to finish reading this one because I don't think their English is as good as I thought it was. Potions or changing the team in advanced stage. The second part of that question actually doesn't make as much sense as I'd hoped.
Sounds like they're asking about branching during, like, if you get halfway through and it's going to make a different decision based on. I'm not 100% sure, but
yeah, it looks like what they want or what they're hoping for is a way to set it up so that you can set your automation to do specific challenges for patrons. So you're like, I want you to kill this many of this, or proceed to this area, or whatever. And they're just they're wondering about, I guess, further customization on setting up your resets.
I mean, it's certainly something that we'll be watching and seeing what we can actually do, but that does start to get into sort of really complicated territory, especially if it's going to be functional across, a wide variety of different things you'd want to automate rather than just some very specific things. So, I mean, we'll keep our eye on it, but I think that could be too complicated.
Yeah, I think we're providing kind of the tools for that. Like you can, say you want to do a patron challenge that is to use a certain set of champions for some X levels. You could set up a save formation that has that, assign that to the save formation, assign a reset to it, and it could go and do that. But it wouldn't, it's kind of one at a time kind of thing, more than just being able to be like, hey, go do all my patron challenges for the week and then let me know when you're done.
I mean, I could see someone wanting a thing like, go to this area where there are beasts and then kill 1,000 of them to complete the challenge and then carry on. It's like, no, probably not a feature.
Yeah. We'll give you the tools. We'll give you the tools to do it, but not, we won't use them ourselves for you.
Are there any chances of new tiers of blessings that in some way affect Modron automation or multi-party mode?
Yep. Yeah, I think so. I think that whenever we add a new feature, we kind of see how we can use that within the other features of the game. So I could definitely see Modron stuff factoring into blessings or perks or anything like that.
And for a last question, what do we got?
Make it a good one.
Would you consider an auto retry level feature for a party running on an automated core, i.e. to try to progress a failed level each time your familiar levels up a champion?
Yeah, so I know our other idle game, Crusaders, has you can drop a familiar onto the auto progress button, and that'll just turn on auto progress if it ever gets turned off, which then causes you to basically, when you get knocked back a level, just immediately go forward again. So we could look at doing something similar to that, where it's like a location you can drop a familiar to do that kind of thing.
Cool.
No promises. It's just, I know it's something we do in another game that's similar to this one, so I'm sure we could do it here.
Is there anything else you guys would like to say before escaping from here to go back to your bug lists?
Yeah, do we have to go back to our bug list? Can we just stay here?
That's what I was saying to Dylan before we set this up, was like, having an opportunity to just talk to the community instead of actually working on the current bug fixes is a break,
Yeah.
No, I mean, I'd like to thank the community for being so awesome. Like, it's really nice that we can come here and answer your questions, and it's and get all the support that we're getting in the chat, and we've seen lots of really positive feedback about the Modron animation and the multi-party play, and it really it makes it all worth it when we can do a feature like this, and then you guys can just really love it as much as you do. So, thank you for that.
Cool. All right. On that note, I'm going to, rather than do what I was going to try and do before and just automatically bring Chris in and transition over while you guys are on, I think I'm just going to wrap up this episode and then start another one with Chris in a couple of minutes. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We'll be putting these VODs up on the YouTube right after we finish broadcasting at 4. So they'll be up sooner than usual. But anyways, shout out to you guys for showing up for this and for asking questions, and to Dave and Justin from taking time from a very, very busy burn down list to join me and witness my stream failures in addition to getting all this rolling and answering some questions. So thank you guys. Thanks everybody for tuning in, and we will be back in a few minutes. Cheers.
Bye.